Hello, this is Lisa Russick with the podcast We're All Psychic. And today we have a really cool guest. Her name is Jeanie. And Jeanie, would you like to say hello?
Hi, hello to you and hello to everybody.
So, Jeanie, I have a question for you. Do you think we're all psychic?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So what brought you to that conclusion?
Well, I didn't come to it early in my life because I had this misconception. Well, in order to be psychic, you had to have a 1-800 number and have an island accent. That's what the television told me to do. And then I suffered from this delusion that you had to have been somehow tapped when you were a child and the world all knew it. And
I had that conception too. Like this child just knew everything,
I know it.
And all their life. Yeah.
And that you had to be able to see auras and you had to say,
me too.
Yes, I have a spiritual guide and he stands over here and his name is Wana or something. And because none of that happened to me, I thought, okay, and therefore I'm not psychic.
Right.
Nothing could be farther from the truth. Every one of us is, and every child is, every animal is. I mean, I have two kitties right now, and they see spirits. I swear they do.
Oh, they do.
And they look up and talk and mew, and it used to scare me. And then I'd think, oh, well, what do they want or what do they need? And I thought, well, they're talking to somebody. Just give it a rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I couldn't see auras. I still don't see auras today, but it doesn't mean I'm not psychic. I then began to learn their clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience. And for those who are listening that don't know, don't have a preconceived notion of how you get energy or tap into energy, because that's what I did. I thought, well, you have to be this way. No, I'm real clairsentient. So I sense things. And then there will be times, and this may not make any sense to anybody, but there are times that I know something.
That's claircognizance. Yeah, that's me too. I have that mainly. The claircognizance is just knowing.
Absolutely. And there's a very strong difference between believing something and knowing something.
True.
And knowing something taps into your intuition, which all of us have. Everybody uses it. I'm sure everybody has had an experience where you're thinking of somebody and the phone rings and that's where they are.
Yeah.
Oh, and everybody says, oh, that's a coincidence. No.
Too many people have that happen. And that's been an example on the podcast a lot.
Yeah.
Because it happens to everybody, It
does.
Yeah.
And if you're wondering about being psychic or not, just, don't, I guess my best advice would be just be gentle with yourself and don't have these preconceived notions. Check out one of the ways I started when I was really beginning to honor my intuition was, and a lot of times I get these ideas that I thought were my ideas, but they weren't. They were kind of put in
to you.
And I think, oh, okay. And so this was one of them. Try it. And I thought, all right, I'm going to try to follow my intuition. And I would go in to open the door to my closet and I'd say, okay, spirit, oneness, higher power, whatever you want to talk and call this the invisible. And sometimes I just say mystery. What would you have me wear today? Now, who cares? It doesn't care. I don't care, whatever. But it's a practice that I wanted to try to get into. What would you have me wear today? And then I would just open my eyes and look. And if my eyes went to the green blouse, I'd take that out and put it on, just trusting. And somewhere along the day, somebody would validate, wow, that's a pretty blouse, or you look good in green. And it was my way of validating that you could communicate to the other side of the invisible. And it was real and I wasn't crazy. And, the Western mind will say, well, that's not real. That was a coincidence. You really are not psychic. You don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Now, and I would try on small things like that. Who cares? That doesn't make any difference. I wasn't going to say, okay, well, shall I sell my house and move to Borneo? Not that, the first time. Not going to happen doing that. And then I would try using a pendulum And people would encourage that. And other people would say, oh, I can't use a pendulum because it just goes wherever it wants to. And I thought, well, maybe so. And then they taught me how to do muscle testing or asking a question where I would, yes, would be, you set up the rules, whether it be goes through your fingers or doesn't, or I would stand or sit and ask a question and say, okay, left and right would be the one answer, and back and forth would be another. And I began practicing that. When I found, and this is what I advise a lot of my clients, is when you are open to trying to talk with the healing spirits or guides or whatever you want to talk to, call them, they're excited to help you. They're kind of standing around. I had a mentor say to me once, Spirit is always broadcasting. Are you listening? And it's like, no. And so it's like, okay, I'd like to be able to say, I'd love to be able to communicate more with you. And the more you try this, the more I'm sure they're humored by it as well, but the more they're willing to do it. Now, what scared me at the beginning was I didn't want some spirit I didn't like to come in. Right. And visions of, what's her face's head turning around and
The Exorcist.
Yeah. The Exorcist and Poltergeist and all those horrible movies came in. And so a mantra was kind of given to me. And I say, I now allow all who stand in goodness and light to work with me on any and all levels. And it was kind of a protection. That's
awesome. I like that. I might start using that.
If there's anybody out there that's not in goodness and light, y'all go talk to somebody else, but don't.
Go bother somebody.
It's like, go on by. I just only want the good ones here. So, and then sometimes it's. I'm even more emphatic. I now allow all who stand in goodness and light to work with me on any and all levels, right here and right now. And then I feel protected when that happens. And then I guess the first time I had I really knew that this thought that I had was not my thought, was I was having difficulty with a particular person. And I thought, I didn't realize at the time that this person was very narcissistic and was easily fooling people. And but I thought, how do I know whether this person is telling me the truth or making stuff up or lying or whatever? And this thought came into my head. Actually, I was washing my hair and I thought, well, I guess this is the way the Spirit speaks to me when I'm busy, not paying any attention, So this thought came in my right side and left the left side. And I knew it did. It was like just this arrow. And I thought, well, that was it. Yeah, that's a good thought. And I thought, wait a minute, that was happening in my head. Was that my thought? No, that wasn't my thought. Mm-hmm. And what it was another mantra. Show me the true nature of this person. And I thought, okay. So every time I started wondering, is this person trustworthy? Show me the true nature of this person. Show me the true nature of this person. And then remember your manners. Thank you. Thank you. And boy, don't use that one unless you really want to know. Hold on to your hat, because you will certainly be shown. Yeah. Very soon whether that person's trustworthy or not. Yeah. Yeah. So I started in just little ways like that. And I was older. I mean, I don't know when, I certainly wasn't a child. I was, I'd always been open, and I love going to psychics. Always have. People would laugh at me. Oh. And then
if they had gone, they wouldn't have gone. They would have kept going back, even though they laughed at you. Because, it's like a therapist, listeners. Now, I forgot to say, this is a video podcast on Spotify. I always forget in the beginning to say that, but I will put it in the description. Okay. Before the podcast, she told me that she is also a professional psychotherapist and a shaman. So two things she's integrated in some way to work together. And I think that's just really great. And When you do work with people, do you integrate them both, like for certain people, and other people keep them separate, or do you?
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely, because, I'm licensed by very sterile bodies, but I understand why states would have licensing boards so that people aren't taken advantage of, which unfortunately some people are.
Yeah.
So I do keep them very separate. Now, not with some people. I also take people on retreat. So I'll take people, I'm not closed to men coming on the retreat, but so far only women usually want to go. And so I'll take them, and I have begun. Some of them have been clients before. Some of them have been, I've done workshops. And see, my psychotherapy business is rooted in helping people who have either had addiction themselves, who are in the throes of addiction themselves, or family members. I work a lot with the family members, which used to be husbands and wives. And today, the family members, 99.9% of the time, are parents. So I work with them a lot, and they're used to the darkness. And so if they're open to using any kind of form of spirituality to help them, then I'll also teach them how to do a shamanic journey, which gets them into touch with their spirit guides and their animal helping spirits. I guess I'm old and crotchety, because there are some people who will call me and say, "Oh, do you use ayahuasca? Can you teach me? Can you?" And the answer to that is no.
Not that kind of shaman time.
My belief is that we don't need an intermediary to speak with what created us. We are a piece of it anyway. I say we're the piece of the DNA block, the chip off the old block of whatever this thing is that started in created everything. And I don't know whether you all are looking at any of the pictures that are coming back on the James Webb.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Did you see the star that was beyond the universe?
I know. Yes. Yes. And the picture of two galaxies colliding.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, if you haven't looked that up on the internet or on wherever even every kind of social media has a link to it, and started looking at those pictures.
Mind
just blowing.
Yeah.
And the first thing that ought to come to your mind is get over yourself. You're not that important. There was that one real wonderful picture of here's Jupiter, and it's like a giant basketball size, say of a basketball. And then here's the Earth. They put it up against it to show the size. And here's the Earth, and it would be like the teeniest, tiniest button you have on any kind of wardrobe. This teeny weeny little thing up against. I can't even think of anything that small up against this giant planet. And so we're just so insignificant, and yet, boy, is this ego.
We feel big, though. I feel sometimes like I am just huge. My head is just like there's too many thoughts. Like if the thinking, sometimes it gets away. But you can think your way out of stuff. But if you haven't learned that yet, or you never really were that way naturally, I had a psychotherapist a lot like you, and it took her a while, but she did tell me she performed Reiki and stuff like that, and she practiced when I left. This was one of my 20s. And then when I came back, she did tell me that she was a witch. So she practiced, white witch. That's her thing. But in my mind, it was more like shamanism, because she did the guided meditations and stuff like that. So, but I was really lucky. She was one of those open-minded types. So when I first was thinking, I'm psychic. Well, who do I tell? I called her, and she's like, "So you're psychic?" And then when I moved back here, I started working as one. And she's like, "Oh, good." Because when I would have therapy with her, she'd be like, "You'd make a good therapist someday if you wanted to do that." And I was like, "I don't think I do, because I'm not put together right yet." And she said, "This is great that you became a psychic, because this is like where because she had said that before, that I could bring things out of people and change their thinking." And she changed how I think. She taught me how to change how I think, which is, it's a hard thing. It's very hard to do. For me, it was. But once I learned it, I can apply it to every area of my life if I will do it. Because sometimes I want to sit in the suffering.
Well, yeah, I think you hit a really good point. This is about action. It's, I mean, there are miracles that happen just with, doing nothing. Of course there are. But for the most part, it's like, what are your spiritual practices? Practices. And we'll say that. They'll say, well, you can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket. It's like, yeah, what action are you taking?
Yeah.
And, but one of the things that I also have my clients do, I'll say, what are your spiritual practices? And they'll say, oh, well, I pray. And I said, no. That's one of them for you. But what else? And one of them can be, you've sat at your computer all day and you've Zoomed all day or whatever. And it's like, get up, walk out in nature, look at things. Don't take your dadgum phone and your phone, put it in your pocket in case you have to call 911.
Or an EpiPen if you have an
allergy. Don't listen to it. Don't have the earbuds in. Yeah. Listen to the birds.
Yes.
Listen to the wind. Listen to
feel it. You can feel it when you listen to it. You just listen and you start to feel it all.
Absolutely,
like the green and the growth and the vitality of nature. It's really there's a lot of vitality in nature, and especially this time of year, fall, sun, and summer, and the spring, winter. There's vitality, but it's different.
It's and it's so much smarter than we are.
Yeah, it works.
I wrote a poem called Grace-Filled Trees. And in there, I talked about how that tree is, I just was outside pondering it one day. I've always loved trees. And I went to, let me back up. I'm all over the place here. When I was first moved to Los Angeles, I guess I was living in Orange County. It was about the year 2000. I moved up here and I was driving down a boulevard, Venice Boulevard, and I heard on the radio back in the olden days when we watched the radio, listened to the radio, watched the radio. And they said, well, there's a gathering of the shaman and the healers from all over the world at Big Bear. And they went into telling about it. And I thought, I have to go. And I thought, why do I have to go?
One of those.
I don't know.
Arrows.
I had moved here from Texas, and I thought, well, I don't even know where Big Bear is. I think I've heard them say it's up on some mountain, but I have a 14-year-old Honda. Is that going to make it up there? And I thought, well, then I don't know what's there. And I'm still kind of suspicious of all the weirdness here in LA, but something drew me here. So I thought, well, I don't know. So I did stop finally and get on the internet, and because they'd named some people, and I started looking at it, and I saw this woman who lived in Topanga, and that's not too far. And I thought, okay. So I called her and I said, may I have a session with you? She said, yes, go ahead. Yes, I'd love to. She said, may I dream for you? I thought, yeah, okay, whatever that means. Knock yourself out.
What did that mean? Did you find out?
I don't know. Yeah, sure. Do what you want. So I went to her and I kept giving myself permission. I thought, no, if she's too hippy dippy or weird or woo, I just say, thank you very much. Bye. And I just kept going, trusting my intuition. And I met her and I thought, this is a nice, cute little place. And she had all these little tchotchkes all over her room. And I thought, well, okay, well, I guess she collects these things. And so I said, I don't know why I'm here, but I think we have worked together. We have worked together to do. And she looked at me and she said, yes. She said, you've come to us to teach you how to be an elder.
Oh.
And I started to cry.
Oh my God.
I know you're right, but I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I did too. I thought, yeah, you're right. I don't know what it means. And so she, had me sit down. She started pulling a few cards, and I don't like the traditional tarot deck. What everybody says, this is. It scares me. I don't like it. I don't like all the swords. I don't like.
Nobody likes the swords.
And so she was using something different, and I thought, oh, I'm open to this. This was kind of neat, and so. She was puzzled. She said, well, I don't know. And I thought, oh, good. I found the one and only tarot reader, psychic. that doesn't know how to use these things. She's supposed to teach me. And so I thought, okay, well, you're just wasting money, but she's not doesn't make you eat it raw chicken yet or something. So in a minute, I didn't hear it, but in a minute she started to laugh. She said, "Oh, I hear it now." And I thought, wonderful. What are we hearing? And it happened again, and it was the coyotes, and they were howling. And she said, "You must have coyote spirit." As people, I said, she said, "That's referred to as the trickster, or the brings levity and light and humor to something." And people said you were funny. And I said, "Yeah, people always
are funny.
I don't get it, you know." But and she said, "Okay, now that they have acknowledged and you have acknowledged," and I said, "Well, when I was driving up here through the canyon, 2 coyotes crossed my path, or a coyote crossed my path 2 times."
Yeah.
And stood in the light and stared at me for a minute. And she started to laugh. She said, "Oh, I'll tell you what that means in a minute." And I said, "So, yeah, I guess I do." And they were the first to show me that they were one of my helping spirits. And so she said, "Well, now that we've acknowledged them, we can get down to business." So she spread the cards out, and then they made sense. But they were messing with the cards to make sure that we knew
a good connection.
Hi, I'm here.
Yeah. So, they wanted to let you know about them.
That's right. Use me. And, so she said, "I want to do a soul retrieval on you." And I thought, okay, it seemed okay to me. And so she began doing it. And she said, "Okay, I found a piece of you, and it's being protected by a lion and under a tree." And what came out of me immediately was, I've been drawing that tree since I was 8 years old.
Wow.
And it was my first logo, hand drawn, on my very first business.
Oh, wow.
And see, I could have gone all my life and never known that.
Yeah.
There was something hungry inside of me that I kept. It's almost like, Hansel and Gretel used to drop the
breadcrumbs.
Yeah, breadcrumbs. So, that's kind of me. I just follow the next breadcrumb.
Yeah.
Or what I also say is, I follow the next stone and look at and see if there's a message. Turn left, turn right, go here. And that has served me well, and it's led me to people. It's led me to you,
the podcast. Yeah.
And led me to. I'm open to it. And I'm cautious. And I keep singing inside because not everybody, unfortunately, is trustworthy in this world. But, use that mantra, show me the true nature of this person. And boy, you'll get shown. But so that's kind of how here in California, how I started. And then she says, I'm having a 3-year class of teaching shamanism and showing you and teaching you how to do this if you would like. And I thought, yeah, I can't remember. I'd have to go look at my notes, but I think I saw her in May, and this was supposed to start in July. And I thought, now see, that wasn't a coincidence either.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's like, I'm driving down. I don't know where I was going, the beach or the grocery store, probably, and gathering with the shaman and the healers. And I thought, from there to a 3-year course.
Yeah.
So I started that course. There were 12 other women. We finally went down to about 8. And we all kept saying, "Why are we here? We're not shamans. Shaman are from indigenous cultures, and they've been taken by the elder in their community and groomed." And we're all
that's the traditional knowledge.
Women,
Yeah.
She said no, because two things. One, she said the distinction between the worlds is collapsing. So there's not the upper world, the middle world, the lower world like it was. You can travel, and more people are wanting to. We're getting ready for a shift, and more people want to know and want the veils to be even less dense so we can travel back and forth between visible and invisible. And every single one of us had one foot in one world and another foot in another world. And I kept saying, how am I going to blend these two, and I do. And you asked that question 500 years ago, and I'll finally get to the answer here in a minute.
I forgot the question.
Yeah, I forgot the question. So, and I don't call myself a shaman. I call myself a shamanic practitioner because I use some of the tools, and I learned some of the basic practices from Dr. Michael Harner, who was an anthropologist and brought back core shamanism from all over the world. He traveled and learned what this culture did, what this culture did, what this culture did. And he saw practices that were common to all of the tribes. And he developed the phrase core shamanism. So he brought back, and he wrote a book, The Way of the Shaman, a long time ago. And
I have that book.
Well, he said toward the end of his life, and he died here a few years ago, that he would have changed some of the stuff in that book. But that's what he knew at the time. And he said, because he came back and he developed these courses, and people could take them in order. He'd say, you have to do this one first, et cetera. And then he would certify people. He'd give you a certificate, and you were certified by the Foundation for Shamanic Studies. And then he stopped doing it, stopped certifying people, because he said, what am I doing? I don't have the right to certify people. Spirit does that. So he stopped doing it. I took many courses from him. I took them from the woman that I met originally, Valerie. And then I took a lot of courses from Sandra Ingerman. And they all would say the same thing, that if you're being led to do this, study it. And then the study is not so that you can do it right. It's so that you can develop your own talents and your own gifts, so that you come at the world and listen, maybe sometimes by using their techniques, but by learning what ones you were given. And so I thought that I was a good psychotherapist because I happened to be a naturally talented psychotherapist. And I've come to realize that I was using my intuition probably more than I was using my training. And I have a podcast as well, but I don't do visible because most of the time I'm in my pajamas.
Yeah.
Called The Recovered Therapist. Oh. And it's because I've been in psychotherapy for about 30-ish years, a little past that. And I'm much more intuitive now than I was at the beginning. Yeah. And I'm willing to just trust and do what I'm told to do with each person that comes in.
Right.
So it's almost like I'm unlearning some of the things that I learned at the beginning. And because some of the very new therapists are horrible. Sorry.
It's so true. I've been in therapy since that first therapist, and none of them have compared. I end up counseling them.
Yes. Well,
because a lot of the places forced me to do therapy at the same time as medication. I have psych problems. It's actually something else. It's hypermobile EDS, but it causes psych problems. And that was just diagnosed. But all of them, older, younger, male, female, it didn't matter. I would listen a lot, like you probably are used to people just coming up to you and telling you all this stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that happens to me a lot. And I could tell it happens to you. They tell you their whole everything, right? They just, wow. So I feel like that some people just have that, like maybe you saw faces, I don't know, or energy or something that I do. Yeah. I am curious about people. Maybe that's why you got into psychotherapy. I'm very curious what makes people do what they do. Why are they this way? What happened to them? Where are they going? I'm curious about them. And I think they can sense that, and they will just, like the therapist would just start telling me stuff. And then I'd ask them about it because I'm curious. And it would mainly be me talking to them about where they're going to go after they finish this job here, getting their, whatever they need for school or,
Right.
So.
Well, what I have learned in studying people is many people who get into psychotherapy haven't done their own work.
That's so true. That's true with psychic stuff too. Like when I was younger, I've always been drawn to it since I was about 15, but I didn't really believe it. And when I got my first phone line job, I think I was 20. I want to say I was 29, and I quit immediately. Like, because I picked the name Katrina, and then Katrina came through New Orleans, but I was in Arizona at the time, and I just felt weird about that. And I did log in the first day on my phone, like the old way you did it, dial it in,
Yeah.
And I just sat there for like an hour, and I was like, if someone calls, I don't know what to do. I have no idea. And it wasn't time. I hadn't done the work at all. I mean, I'd done some, but not what I needed to do to get to where I could really help people, Well,
but also that being called on the spot, it's kind of like, I play the piano. Oh, here, play us a tune.
Play Chopin.
You're a psychicus. Tell us something. And it's like, you're crazy? I don't know.
I'm gonna do that mantra, and I'll tell you everything.
Don't put me on the spot, okay? So, that just, I understand that. That scares me to death. And here lately, and this isn't fault of the young people who want to be therapists, but many of them, I was going to go on off on a trail, and I won't.
Oh, you can.
Well, I was going to say, schools, they're desperate for money too. So there's, sure, you can be a therapist and teach group process online. No, you can't. And, and when I remember I was teaching for a university at the time, and they said, well, we're going to go online. We're going to offer these courses online. And I said, I understand that. With some of them, you can do that. But how are you going to do group process online? I mean, even as wonderful as Zoom has been for everybody, it's still, for me, I can't feel.
Yeah.
I got to have more energy, So anyway, so many of them have gotten this stuff online, and they wouldn't know what to do in a pause. They say, okay, go run the group at 10 o'clock, and they go in, they have it's like school. They have a piece of paper. Okay, today we're going to work this worksheet and talk about it. Everybody thinks all you have to do is say, well, tell me about your feelings. That's not all. Yeah. So it's like they're not very good. So
they're young too. Like, you're experienced. I mean, but you seem like you've always had a lot of wisdom. You just seem like that.
Well, I always thought I did, and told everybody I did.
That's because you do.
Leveled my ego a bit. Before I did all this, I mean, I was trained initially as a high school teacher, a history and government teacher. So when you were talking about people, my business has always been people. Always. Yeah. And believe it or not, of course, I was teaching in a small town in Texas, and so all the other history teachers were the coaches. So they were running football plays in their history classes.
Right. I had that in my school too.
Yeah. So I guess they thought, well, let's get them to do that. So I said to my students at the time, I said, look, if you want to know when a certain war was, go look the numbers up. Go type it in. But if you want to study people, that's my history class. So I would teach thematically. I say, you have to at least know that, World War II didn't happen right after the American Revolution. Okay. You have to have that. But otherwise, let's talk about people. And then there was no such thing in the olden days, in the dark ages, where there was no internet, there was no cell phones. But I had gone to University of Texas in Austin, and they had done big lecture classes, but they would do slide music presentations. And I loved them. And I thought, well, I can do that. Of course, I didn't have any equipment. I had no idea how to do it, but I discovered how. And back in those days, I would take a camera out of the library. We had to check the special camera out, and I'd take pictures, lift the pictures out of books. Forget copyright. I have to be an attorney at the time. And he said, as long as you use it for educational purpose and you don't make money on it, it's fine. I thought, okay, good. So I would be teaching something and I would show one of those. I would put it to a record, a vinyl, and know when to flip the slide. Well, it went like wildfire around the school. And so people would say, can I come into your class and see this today? And I said, well, yeah, you can, but I need a note from your teacher. So, I'm not stripping the whole school of classes. And, so I taught history and government for several years, 5 years or so. And then I took time off to be a mom. And then when my daughter was about 10, I went back to teaching. And I thought, I love graphic arts. And I thought, well, I'm going to add that. So I signed up to do graphic arts. And that's when I kept this nudge, go get trained as a therapist, and especially to work with alcoholics and addicts and their families. And so that's what I ended up doing. And when you can't sit around and just talk about that stuff all the time. You need to do some experiential work. You got to, be able to act some of this stuff out, do role playing and stuff. And I remembered one time I was listening to this gentleman, and he was talking about something that happened in his childhood. And that's kind of my specialty, is family of origin stuff. And so I was listening to him intently, and all of a sudden I said, you were in the kitchen, right? You were about 8. And he said, yeah. And he went on and started talking. And then he looked at me, he said, how did you know that? And I was saying the same thing to myself.
You're already like,
how did I know that? And I couldn't let him know I didn't know.
What'd you tell him?
So I just said, just a guess. Go ahead. And he finished it. And I thought, that's right. How did I know that? And
that's detailed in the kitchen at 8. Yeah. That's
yeah. And I could see exactly where he was
and what he looked like at 8. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when I went to try to describe it to somebody, it wasn't that all I could really say is it was a knowing.
Mm-hmm.
I could see the kitchen counter, and I had a sense he was there, and I had a sense he was 8. But it wasn't like I could see a picture like I see you right now.
No, it's like in your mind's eye. It's like a dream or like a daydream. When you have your eyes closed, you're just daydreaming. You can see things or know things. Like I'm a writer too, and I feel like you've done some. Have you done some? Yeah, I can tell you speak. You're a good speaker. Yeah. But I feel like writing, especially, gets that part of the imagination going. I wrote fiction for years. And fiction is just like, you have to get into all these curious people's heads to create them, and it's really fun. And it took a lot of work. And actually, speaking of doing the work on yourself, for me, that was a lot of doing the work for myself, was writing books, because these characters had a lot of the problems I had. Mm-hmm. That happened, and I would work through it kind of. I didn't realize I was doing it though.
See, that's it. It's something that has maybe an adversity in our own lives that calls us is a better word, calls us to not resolve it, but walk through it. Or it's in shamanic world, we call that an initiation. So you're initiated into it and hungry for an answer or resolution, or just curious about it.
Yes.
And then it becomes an integrated part of your life. Yes. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but if it does make sense.
It does to me, because I really did study. Like I told you listeners, I told you before the podcast, I may have mentioned it before on the podcast, but I always had, when I first started working with energy and thinking, am I psychic? Shamanism, like I told her, was the one that I was drawn to. And I did work with it for about 10 years, maybe. And then when I started doing readings professionally, I could take people into trance on the phone. Wow. And I call it, I didn't know what I was doing really, because I studied it here and there, like through books or internet, and a lot of different information out there. So like you said, you're really learning your own way.
Right.
And the main thing that would work for me is to go to the lower world with my guides. And we take them to their spot. I didn't know lower, upper, middle. I didn't know those. Right. So we would just go through a cave, and then we'd be in a spot. So I would just call it their place. And I would describe it to them, and they'd always know what it was somehow from a dream or somewhere they'd daydream about being, or, usually it was in their dreams as a recurring dream place or something like that. Mm-hmm. And, you've probably done this kind of stuff, and you can see things there that maybe you aren't right,
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk to animals and trees and whatever's there. One time I saw somebody's place was just like a big rainbow disc in space. And I was like, well, that's interesting.
Ooh, I want to tell you about one that I did. I was doing a soul retrieval on a young woman. And at the time she was in law school. And she'd come from a family that back in the cave that didn't believe women should have an education. Why are you doing that? Why did you even go to college? Why would you go to law school? And so she did it anyway. She was, she may have been gone back to school in her 30s, I guess, to go to law school or late. Yeah, because she already had a bachelor's, so she was going to upper school, and she wasn't in her 20s. So I said, okay, we'll try to find the pieces of your soul, and I'll bring them back if they want to come back. So, okay. So I normally find hurt children or people, and so here was this little girl, she was about 14, in a crescent moon. And the crescent moon, they made a swing out of the crescent moon. So the swing was there, and she was swinging just as happy as she could be. And I thought,
that's great.
First of all, you're not the age I usually find. Secondly, why are you happy?
Yeah.
And so I said, hi, I'm here. And do you belong to so-and-so? And she would like to have you come back. And if that's what you'd like, and how did you get here and everything? And she basically said, I'm here to protect her gifts. And I said, okay. And she said, her family didn't want her to be educated. And so I thought I'd just take this off, because otherwise she would have been, I wanted her to be curious about it. And otherwise, if I'd stayed, they would have beat me up and beat her up. And she'd never done this. I said, makes sense. So she's ready for you to come back if you're ready. So, yeah. So, and there was a song, and it was, would you like to swing on a star? Carry moonbeams home in a jar.
Oh,
those were the lyrics. And I thought, I know that. What was it? Who sang that? But that was what she kept singing. I kept hearing in the background. So my instructions are, when I come back from a shamanic journey for you, I ask that you don't ask me any questions. I have a pad and paper there. I'll tell you about what I experienced. You write, you take notes. And I may get the courage one day to record it, but it has never felt right. So you record it. I mean, you record it, and whatever we remember. And when I'm done, I'll say, all right, now if you want to ask me any questions, you can. And so first thing out of her mouth, I still have, I forgot to say, this girl was dressed in overall blue jeans, jean overalls. So first thing out of her mouth, she said, I still have those overall jeans. I said, you do?
That's even more shocking than the shaman experience.
That's what I thought. I thought my earthly Western mind ego jumped in there, and I thought, damn, you can still wear the same.
Yeah.
And you still have them too. And she said, yeah. And immediately came out of my mouth is, you have to wear them when you take the bar exam. And so the next time I saw this girl, she shows up and she brought those overalls for me. Isn't that fabulous?
This is great.
I couldn't believe it. I said, oh my God, yes, that's exactly what I saw. And she did go wear them when she took the bar exam. She passed the bar, and she's an assistant district attorney. And in, I won't say what state, but, and she works in the child abuse.
Wow, that's hard work. That's hard work.
Yeah, she's prosecuting perpetrators.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was just phenomenal.
So you really put, maybe that joyful thing was what you brought her back to, like the joy of life
and the confidence,
and the protection of her own.
Yeah. So see, sometimes when pieces split off, they'll split off because they've been traumatized. It's a protective mechanism for that. But in this case, sometimes, and in my case, it was they're going to split off and they'll, in order to protect some gifts. So that little lion and the tree that was protecting the little 8-year-old girl that she found under there, that girl didn't necessarily want to come back when Valerie did that soul retrieval. She said, you want to come back? And she said, I don't know. And she looked at the lion and the tree, and neither one of them would release her. And so Valerie promised them that she would teach them.
Teach the tiger and the tree what?
She would teach me and the other parts of me how to do shamanism. Okay. And they were reluctant. They said, we'll let you have her, but you have to teach her and all the others that are with her.
Yeah.
And so Valerie promised, and she made good on her promise. She said, well, she's going to start in a class here soon. And and I worked with her for 3 years, still in touch with her, but she's
great. Dead. Yeah. I love the long-term clients and when they get happy. And then you stay friends. Yeah. Well, it does take some time sometimes. Sometimes it takes years, like 10 years, for them to feel happy. And that, for me, that's the goal. I'm trying to get them happy for my reading.
And see, for me, I have developed, I'm trying to say whether I developed a method, I don't know.
Your own thing, kind of, it sounds like.
And it's a way I work with people. And I've gotten more trusting in, sharing some of what I wouldn't share normally. And one is sometimes when I'm working with somebody, even traditionally, I'll keep yawning and yawning. I'm kind of, now that I've said that, my lion will probably show up now. But when in African tradition, when spirit has shown up to work with you, they begin to yawn and they say, that's when spirit.
I have heard that. Yeah.
And I didn't know that until after I started yawning, because I would work with some people and then it was like, oh my, even sitting there traditionally listening to them. And I would just yawn and yawn. And
hope they don't think anything like I'm.
I finally said one day, you hear that little dog? I want that dog so badly. My neighbor ignores that little dog.
I have the same situation.
Mm-hmm. Now he's brought him out he's working on his car or something. And he's brought her out. She'll just bark the whole time because she wants attention. She's a cute little thing.
Yeah.
So far, every time I say, well, when you're ready to give them to that dog,
let me know. See, that's something I've always thought shamanism, like I've always loved animals. And that's part of why when I was first starting out, I was drawn to shaman. I love animals. I bet you feel the same way, right? You just love them all. And they all seem like they have messages, every single one of them, and they're just like all they know is love unless they've been hurt. And then it's just defense, or they're feral, and they're just, but they still, they've got just energy and vibrancy, and they thrive on surviving, and
totally agree.
And they all have their own energies, and it's just so and cats are my favorite. Even listeners, before we started the podcast, Gandalf, as you've seen or heard him interrupting the podcast before, if you're a regular listener, he came up here, so she got to see Gandalf. And the interesting thing, Jeanie, is that when I told you I used to do the travels with my guide, and my other guide was that cat. And he came into my life like in real form. And it's just like when a friend of mine got him for me and the other cat in a city about 45 minutes away as a gift. And he was sick. He had a runny nose and had kennel cough, whatever, the equivalent cat kennel cough or dog, And but when I got to her car, I met her halfway in between the two towns, and she opened the back door, and I opened the little pound box, and they both popped out, and I saw them as they were older instead of kittens at first, and that was Gandalf. That was my spirit cat who traveled through, and I was like, what just happened, and he's attached to me. He's always, usually, I'm surprised he's not in here, but he's always, and whenever I'm like I have stomach issues a lot, and he'll make biscuits on my belly until I feel better. And, and he bites my head sometimes to get me out of bed. He'll pull on my sleeve, like, get out of bed, like a dog, And it's just that was a little miracle that happened in my life with Gandalf. You know, he was definitely him. There was no doubt, because I had that therapist I told you about. One of the first things she did was like the spirit animal meditation, you know, the one in Fight Club, everybody. And that's who I saw. I had a cave. My place in that meditation was like a cave with no roof and a big tree. And there was that cat, little gray cat, you know, exactly that cat. No doubt. It was really strange. Yeah.
It's so fascinating. You know, when I could finally let my Western mind be what it is, you know, and just say, I know you've been trained in a certain format, but can you step aside and just be open? Yeah. And then to explore this, I've always found it safe. Always.
Yeah.
I have never been scared to death. I'm not worried about something getting me. And it's such a pleasure to be able to communicate with everything that has energy in it.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, and everything does. Yeah.
You know, when I was diagnosed with cancer in 2007, and I was in the middle of my shaman training. And that weekend, when we went to gather, we were to be studying in plant medicine and herbs. And I've always had allergies, and that has never been attractive to me. Flowers, et cetera, have represented me sneezing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, and yet I've gone to Chinese medicine people and everything to try to do something about my allergies. And they would say, here, to use this, or somebody say, use this oil. And I think, oh,
the oil makes it worse.
You know, or I did herbal teas and I just cough. And finally, you know, so one guy I was dating said, I think that's making you worse. And I started laughing. I said, I agree. I totally agree. So we gave up all that.
Did you ever find a way to take care of your allergies?
Yes and no. I still am working with it. And believe it or not, one of the things that is the best for me is I have a lady an acupuncturist that made a formula with heliochrysum, which is sunflower.
Yeah.
It works better. And when she gave it to me, she said, here, I want you to use this. And I thought, oh, lady, please. And, but, you know, I felt bad. And I thought, okay, how much is it? She said, okay, I'll pay for it. Well, now she's moved and I find her wherever she's moved. And as we're speaking, she's sending me 3 more vials of this stuff. And I put it all in. It works. Better than, you know, $7,000 a minute with allergists who say,
yeah, I know, right?
You don't have any allergies.
Well, the one thing that might help you though is I do this for my boyfriend. I don't know if you've learned this before, but if you pinch like the nerves, those little spots in between your fingers, that can like drain your sinuses. I don't know if that would stop you from sneezing, but it does kind of drain your sinuses and rub.
Yeah, mine is much more congestion, and that does definitely help.
Yeah. I learned that from an art teacher in like 6th grade, and it's weird. I just remembered it when I was dating him, and I was like, oh, you know, because he was sniffly and stuff, and I did it.
Yeah.
He loved the hand rubbing anyway, but it did work. It dried him out, and I was like, oh, I forgot about that. It can stop headaches too sometimes, like especially if they're sinus headaches, you know.
Oh yeah, or atmospheric pressure headaches.
Yeah.
Well, but anyway, let me go back to this weekend. So my attitude wasn't the best, and I was also depressed and scared to death because, you know, the big C. So she said, okay, I want you to go out on the land, because she lived in an area where there was a lot of land. She go out on the land and find a plant or two or tree or something to talk to and let them teach you. And I thought, oh, no. And I had been in her class long enough that for her to say, go out and talk to a tree didn't bother me. I thought, okay, I can do that. So I went around and I thought, I don't like all this. And you know, I don't like bugs, although we don't have really bugs in California. But finally, I had a little chair to sit on, a little folding camp stool. And I thought, okay, I'll use this white oleander because it reminded me of the oleanders when I was a kid. And so I thought, okay, and I kept moving my little stool because I'd set it down. I think, well, here are all these ants crawling over my legs. So, and you know, you're not supposed to kill anything, which is fine with me until it comes to roaches. And
but I think we all agree on that.
I digress.
They're not from Earth.
Well, thank God that's not one of my spirit animals watch today. It will be.
Oh, well, yeah. My son Spencer, I think it is his spirit animal, a cockroach. One of them. He hates them. He hates them, but they always come to him. They fly to him. They appear all around him, and no one ever sees them but him.
Yes, bless his heart. So finally, I kept moving this little stool. And then what came to me, I started laughing. I thought, oh, yeah, you've come full circle. Duh. Okay. So I sat down. And so I looked at the white oleander, and she began talking to me.
Yeah.
And I knew it was she.
Yeah.
And so I've written a kind of a blog thing on my website and about white oleander. She told me, it's too long to tell, but she told me exactly what to wear when I went for chemotherapy.
Yeah.
I was trying to decide, do I want to do chemotherapy or not? And so she said, you do this, you wear this, and this is what's going to happen. And I did it. And one of the things that was so funny, she said, oh, just because something's poisonous doesn't mean it can't help. She said, look at me. I'm very poisonous. And look, people love the beauty. And I thought, well, you got a point, Oleander. Okay. and I did. I did it exactly the way she said. And, who would have known that white oleander would have been one of my guides?
Yeah.
Therapy. I mean,
yeah. I'm assuming the chemo worked, right?
15 years later, here I am. And I'm supposed to have been dead in 6 months, but
that's amazing.
Didn't happen.
Yeah, Oleander didn't want you to.
I'll tell you something funny too. I love to go out and talk to and I'll tell people, I say, okay, go out and just get a perspective. Sit down and look at 2 trees or 2 plants. They're not saying, hey, I have 437 leaves. How many do you have? I have a BMW. What do you have? How many likes do you have on Instagram? I have so many likes. None of that. They're just standing there awaiting spirits refilling. I mean, I look at all these poor dying things around here because it doesn't have any rain. And they're just there being a tree.
They're surviving. They're just trying to survive in the desert. I lived in Arizona, so I saw that. Like the animals, they're just trying to get by. The plants are weird. It's like Dr. Seuss,
It's incredible. But they're so funny. They love to joke. I was taking some women on a journey to someplace near their home in the third world, the middle world, and to observe. And so I went to this little park near my house too. And I thought, I'm going to try to become one with the rocks, because the stones, the ancient ones, have been here before any of us. They some were underwater, some of them were now exposed, some were still underwater.
I love some rocks. I have rocks all over the place. I mean, I've got rocks.
I do too. I have them everywhere. I do too.
All over.
I have them everywhere. So,
bowl of rocks, a rock bowl of rocks.
I have bowls and bowls of rocks. Yeah, they're all my little sacred objects. And my grandchildren come over since they were even 2 or 3, and I'll say to them, these are Lala's sacred objects. They're not to play with, but you can touch them. And they'll sit there for hours and touch them, or they'll pick up the bowls and make sounds, and they love it. So anyway, this one day, I thought, I'm going to sit on this big boulder in this park and just kind of become one with it and see what it has to tell me. And so as I was getting ready to sit down, I got this image of these khaki clothing of some sort. And then I thought, oh, these are shorts. Oh, that's a butt. His butt. And it was sitting on me.
So you were the rock.
I was, and I started laughing. Oh, I scared my cat. I said, oh my gosh, do you have to put up with this sort of thing all the time? And the stone said, well, yeah. And I started laughing. I said, oh my gosh. I said, I always thought it was something, magnificent and beautiful. But I said, here, this old button and khaki shorts sitting on top of me. And I said, and then I bet you have kids stepping on you and everything. And we started laughing. Rock and I started laughing. And I had not had such a fun experience with like a friend. And I know now
an energy, a spirit of the rock was just fun, right?
It is.
Well, I guess when you live that long forever, you have to get a sense of humor.
You have to. It's been wonderful. Well, if and you can edit this out if you don't want it. Do you mind saying what your astrological sign?
Oh, no, I'm a Taurus. I'm a Capricorn moon with a Cancer rising. Taurus, Mercury, Venus, Gemini. I can't remember the rest, though.
Yeah, I don't know all those. I love astrology for many reasons. And, it's just simply one other explanation of trying to explain a personality,
Yes.
And when I learned that, it made a lot more sense because I kept thinking, why is Aries always first when in the newspaper when you're looking up horoscopes? And, then I learned that because Aries begins the infant development of the soul,
right?
And then it made a lot of sense. You get around to Cancer, and people are always saying, "Oh my gosh, their Cancers are so emotional." Well, they represent the teenager. Of course, they're emotional. And then you move all around, and then people get more intellectual, more heady, and until they're finally incorporated into Pisces, which kind of incorporates everything. So it made perfect sense to me. But that's interesting because I'm right there on the cusp between Cancer and Leo with my sun sign. And then my rising sign is Scorpio.
Interesting. You do have Scorpio vibe. You do.
And my
I've always loved Scorpio.
Moon is Capricorn.
Ah, there we go. We're both Capricorn moon. No, we're on so well. Yeah.
And my daughter is a Capricorn with a Cancer moon. No, Cancer rising. And she has 3 children. She and her 3 children all have Cancer rising.
Oh, wow. They must feel very strong love for each other or something.
They do. Yeah. That house is full of emotion, and they're all talk at the same time.
You talk about really deep stuff really well and articulately.
Yeah.
My other son is a Cancer, and he is like, in 7th grade, he talked like, a 70-year-old man who's educated by Harvard and went on to MIT or whatever. I mean, he always talked like, like he's just a brilliant, but he can articulate every little thing. And my dad's the same way. He just doesn't talk as much, and they're both Cancers. But it's interesting. I mean, we've talked about a lot. So this has been a really good conversation, Jeanie. I've loved it. And where can listeners find out about you? Like you said, you have a website.
I do. My website, and being from the South, maybe y'all understand it. It's called Fresh Out of Plans. FRESHOUTTA, not out of, but Fresh Out of Plans, PLANS.com. And the reason that was one that was put in my head 20 years ago. It's like I'm here to help you. I would love to help you, but I'm tired of the yeah buts. If you truly want to listen and follow direction, fine. If you have another plan, go use it.
Yeah.
But it's not going to work.
And you'll be back.
And when you're ready to really be open enough to follow direction, then call me, talk to me, email me, text me something. And if you're fresh out of plans, because I can teach you how to live in peace and joy and love, even in the midst of chaos.
That's great. And I was going to ask.
I learned how to do that with
advice.
It's like I grew up in an alcoholic home, and I know what chaos, trauma, and all of that is. And the people that I help that are still experiencing that with children, with husbands, wives, or themselves, it's like they live in chaos and they react to everything.
Yeah.
But you don't have to. You can, when you stop looking out here, and there's a little nanosecond between what happens out here, and you can choose to respond, not react.
Yes.
And so I can teach you through certain techniques how to be peaceful, even when the world is falling apart.
That's awesome.
I got a call from a woman today whose son died of addiction. And she said, this is so weird, but she said, I'm at peace anyway. And I said, I know, because she has also been following some of what I tell her to do. And you need three things. You need to know what's happening. First step in this is untangling the mind. And it's like, what am I telling myself? The metaphysical writers knew that in the 1930s. They said, change your thinking, change your world.
Yeah.
And we know that as a culture, when people say, well, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I wake up in the morning and I'm, oh God, I'm tired, this is going to be a terrible day. Guess what, honey? You're going to have a terrible day.
Yeah.
And so, if you have, so what is in my head that's blocking me? And then what are my spiritual practices? What do I need to do? Do I need to go outside and watch an ant? Do I need to watch a squirrel? What do I need to do? Do I need to pray? Do I need whatever traditional it is? And then where is your community? Not always the family. Sometimes that's not a community. It's a family of choice, not a family of origin always.
Right, like a tribe.
Where is your tribe?
Yeah.
And you have to have a tribe for two reasons. You have to have a tribe that supports you when you need it. But more importantly, you have to have a tribe and a place where you can go be of service. Get out of yourself. And that doesn't make sense half the time, when you're not feeling good.
It makes sense to me, because if I can stop thinking and focusing, being self-focused when I'm in a bad place and externalize something else, do something with my hands, especially. That's
yes. And I'm not talking about that, what used to be called codependency. Go out, I feel bad, so I'm going to go try to help you run your life. No, it is. I said that to another mother whose son is in terrible shape and it affects grandchildren. And I said, go be of service somewhere. Don't work in the field of addiction. Don't go talk to any family about addiction, because that's where your heart is dying. But I said, where can you go? Open the door for somebody walking into the Stop and Go or the 7-Eleven, the convenience store, or the grocery store or something. Nod at someone, say hello. If you belong to a church, is there something you can do there physical? Can you go say, can I, clean out the broken toys in the children's department? Can I, what can I do? Can you cook a meal and take it to somebody? Do something physical and something. Yeah. So you think of somebody besides yourself. Because when you're in a bad spot, we just get self-absorbed.
Yeah, very much so. And it's hard to get out of, but like you said, an action will do it. Yeah. And I just really thank you so much, Jeanie, for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. It's wonderful to meet you.
And I will put your information in the description of the podcast, listeners, so you can find her. You've got to.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. And, thank you. It's wonderful to meet you. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
You. And I also want to thank our sponsor, Everclear. Everclear is an advice app where you can get advice from psychics and empaths, so you can get the clarity you need to create the life you deserve. And of course, lastly, I want to thank the listeners and watchers, maybe, if they figure it out. And we love you. I love you. Misty's not here. She's on a vacation. Woo! That's good for her. She's gambling. Don't tell her.
Oh, that's wonderful.
She went to the casino in Mississippi.
Okay.
With her husband. So she's having a good time. And listeners, we love you. Yeah, again, still. I still love you like 30 seconds later. And we'll catch you tomorrow. I got another podcast. Maybe we'll post it. So thank you very much for listening and watching. And we'll see you later. Bye.